Welcome everyone to Esoteric Radio. I'm your host, Sevan, with my co-host, Son. And we have put together quite a show for everyone tonight. The title of the show is Esoterrorist, Hyperterrestrial Assimilation. And this is the first installment of our interactive show, although we definitely brought some things to you last week. And what we're now doing is we're linking that interactive show for those that are online right now at this website, which is www.matrixunderground. That's www.matrixunderground.com. And this is where we will be hosting the virtual show tonight. We have quite a package and quite a few things to get through and to reveal to everyone out in the spiritual world so that they can definitely put themselves into a sounder position. First thing first, I'm going to allow my co-host to introduce himself, and that is Son. Son, if you want to say hello and let everyone know that you are on the line.
I'm on the line, and we're ready to go.
All right. So, again, that website is www.matrixunderground.com. And what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of the information that we bring forth on our shows, and if anyone's familiar with the shows that I've done in the past, the information is of a higher intellect and of a higher channel coming from what we just term the Most High, which has no restrictions, no names, no male, no females, no dogmas. And what we're doing at this point is we're broadcasting a message of truth to you and giving you the tools that are going to be needed for you to empower yourself. Our main objective is ascension and allowing individuals to learn what is necessary for them to learn to get to that level. Before the show even begins, I will say that all the things that are presented here and how you feel about them only serve as more reasons to get activated. There is nothing to fear, but it is most necessary that all the data that is available needs to be presented so that we're able to get, again, a sound, which means firm, and again, energy is sound. So we want you to have a sound foundation of what is actually taking place here. And so this is what we'll do for a moment as I adjust a couple things here. Hold on real quick for me. Okay, the first thing that we're going to get into is the title of the show, because it's most necessary that what we begin to do is that we begin to show, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that there is something going on. But in order to do that, we have to introduce new terms or terms that may not be used that often. One of those terms is hyperterrestrial. Hyperterrestrial is basically when an individual, which we all are terrestrials, begin to move so fast, their vibration begins to speed up, and that they begin to make decisions and assimilate information so fast that they are not focused. And so a hyperterrestrial, as we've now found out that we exist on a hyperdimensional level, we exist in multiple worlds, many of us are figuring that out now, that it is necessary now that we avoid being assimilated by many of the factions that have waited until this very point in mankind's history to begin to unveil what they have called just the great deception. And so what our responsibility is, and the reason why we chose to manifest here into this reality at this point, is to allow there at least to be a choice that individuals would not be fooled and conned by the higher levels and lower levels of thought into a point where they can no longer make a single thought for themselves, but are making decisions based on what other people tell them. We encourage everyone, as we bring to you this interactive show and the information presented here, we ask you to do your own investigation with the things that are being presented so that you too may enjoy in the same feeling that we have when we uncover things that are of the highest level of intellect. So what we were talking about first is getting a nice chronological timeline of things that have taken place in our history. And it's important to do that because sometimes we do forget what exactly has taken place. And when we're looking into the moment or into maybe even what we're watching on TV, we may confuse what's being presented to us as just as it's being presented at that moment, not what it's always been presented as in history. So the beginning of this starts with me basically reading what was put together for the show. There was definitely a text attached to the show. Those that have logged in, it is www.matrixunderground.com. That's where we are hosting this interactive show. What you'll see a lot of data, but you'll also see text accompanied with that. And what we're going to do during this show, so that nothing is missed as we're enjoying this new format, is we're going to be reading through what's written here and analyzing it from a deeper level, crossing it from multiple planes, meaning back up and back down again. We have to, again, connect what's going on in the stars to what's going on here on Earth, because it is all a fractal. So I will start with this first beginning, and I say, as time speeds up at a faster pace, we now face, as a race, hyperdimensional space. One thing that should be understood is that the more that the world gets wealthy, individuals are now taking up more space and acquiring more things for themselves, thus leaving other individuals that do not have the same type of ability of being fortunate with less room. So we have to be aware that in hyperdimensional space, if we go externally, we will try to assimilate and take over everything. But if we go internally, we will find that there is plenty of space there, and we will actually even find ourselves. So the term hyperterrestrial we use to directly refer to our current growth rate. Just as a child is called hyper for moving about fast and not being able to remain focused, the human is faced also with being responsible for analyzing what exactly comes across the portal of information these days, or the consequences could be vast, and the resistance, of course, is here to assist you with that task. There are many that have just begun to embark on esoteric knowledge, while there are also others that are much more adept. Spiritual knowledge itself is far too vast to have a beginning or an end, but it is of value from time to time to do a recap, taking a closer look at certain key points in history, especially, to ascertain what is exactly going on in the present. And this is what we believe is key. So before I get into more of this, as you see, there's an image here displayed of Sir John Dee and Elizabeth I. And what I wanted to do, everything that we're going to talk about, of course, is not listed on this page. And again, for those that are just logging in, we're on www.matrixunderground.com. What we have here is we have a dynasty that has been set up across the world where the ruler is definitely the Queen of England. As far as sheer territory and who is controlling things on the dimension, from parliament to government to every other faculty of resources, we can definitely point things back to the Queen of England. And in addition to that, we can also highlight the Vatican, because the forces that they tend to use are from several angles. One in which is spirituality, one is definitely technology, and multiple angles that we don't even need to get in length in discussing here, but one understanding spirituality. So the individual, Sir John Dee, was the spiritual arm of the Elizabethan dynasty. So going forward, we'll read, in the 1600s, Queen Elizabeth charged Sir John Dee with the task of opening pan-dimensional gates to gain knowledge of how to break the Skynet and traverse the world. John Dee was then ambassador to the Queen signing his name 007. Now, what's here is we're referring to Skynet, which, if anyone remembers, is the company that's in the Terminator. The company that's making the Terminators is called Skynet. What this is a reference to is it's a reference to something that even the indigenous knew about, which is the actual grid that is in the sky or encased around our planet that is, for better lack of words, holding us from doing extra spatial travel, meaning actually experiencing things outside this dimension. Once one gets conformed to the shape of the grid, then they become programmed and assimilated by the grid. And this is why many grids are hexagonal. But to understand also, before there was a grid, meaning when you were a child, some of us can definitely remember of dreaming of space and dreaming of different planets and things of this nature. And those were, of course, the purest thoughts. So going on, I'll say when finally making contact with the pan-dimensional entities, it is known that John Dee became thoroughly possessed, and the ETs in which he made contact with took his mind, flooding it with data beyond lifetimes of comprehension. With this data, the dark Enochian language was eventually developed. This is also the advent that brought about the creation of the nuclear bomb, as many know that Jack Parsons was also a part of this order, and later popularly called the Psychonauts, bent on discovering how to turn matter into energy. So basically, what is being said here is that in a lifetime, there's a certain amount of information that one tends to gather. When John Dee put himself in touch with these pan-dimensional beings, they began to flood his mind and then his aura with hyperdimensional information from what appears to be a lower density. And taking that information, which was about how to traverse the void, how to split the atom and different things like that, they developed one of the most brutal systems yet known to mankind's history. But again, history seems to be repeating itself as mankind continues to build more weapons. What's being shown here on the video that's below is some clips that were taken from the Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones' The Crystal Skull, where it clearly shows one of Nazi persuasion attempting to interface with a hyperdimensional being. And when this is actually taking place, this individual is overloaded with data to the point where they're consumed. So what we'll do is we'll take one moment, which is, I think, about 2 minutes, and we'll allow everyone that is listening in to go ahead and view that video, and then we'll take a quick moment and then get right back with you.
We're all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically.
I think nature's imagination is so much greater than man. He's never gonna let us relax.
We live in an in-between universe where things change alright, but according to patterns, rules, or as we call them, laws of nature.
I'm this guy standing on a planet. Really, I'm just a speck. Compared with the stars. The planet is just another speck. To think about all of this, to think about the vast emptiness of space. There's billions and billions of stars, billions and billions of specks.
The beauty of a living thing is not the atoms that go into it, but the way those atoms are put together. Cosmos is also within us. We're made of spark stuff, and we are aware. The cosmos can know itself across the sea of space. The stars are other suns. We've traveled this way before, and there is much to be learned. We're all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomic. Find it elevating and exhilarating to discover that we live in a universe.
Okay, we're back on. Sevan, are you there? 1 second.
We welcome everyone back to the show, and we had just briefly experienced a couple technical difficulties, but we're okay. And hopefully everyone got a chance to view the video. And for those that are just logging on, we're at www.matrixunderground.com. That is where we're doing our interactive show. I'm on the show today with my co-host Son, and the topic of the show is Esoterrorist, Hyperterrestrial Assimilation. So as we continue, as you see below the video, is one of the ciphers from the Enochian script. Any person that I've known and also read about to get involved with this system of magic, which is imperfect, as the Necronomicon is an imperfect pentagram, has somewhat been assimilated by it in a heavier detail. So as we continue to show, we'll see how it all connects. So the Enochian script. Many individuals think of the one of Enoch, which is in the Bible, known as the first man to write about God. And then they begin to think in their mind about Moses, and they begin to think about all the patriarchs of the Bible. But it's important to clarify that the Bible is definitely a Sumerian text, or a Chaldean text. And the Enochian script is about Enoch, who is none other than Enki. So as I write here, Enoch, the first to write about God, according to Judaism, is none other than Enki of the Sumerian pantheism. As I show a picture of Inky, this is Inky as revealed in the Code to the Matrix. This is the common Saturnalian motif of the bearded god. One should ask themselves, what is it about Earth that these entities want to escape it so bad, abandoning places like the warm tropics for deep cold space confined to a physical ship? One of the things in moving very fast, as the hyperterrestrial does, is not allowing oneself to have quantum thinking. This is when you examine one particular part of a subject to gain even more than you would if you had examined the whole story. So if we can just ask ourselves, why is it that so many of these factions that are coming out now are fascinated with leaving Earth? And when we search in the Sumerian text, we learn that the original beings of the Anunnaki, which were actually hyperdimensional beings, not having a physical form, came into this system. There were many things that were unpleasant about this Earth on the surface, so they chose to go underground. So I continue. If this dynasty did not start until the 1600s, delving into the machinations of the deep occult, that would insist that they knew very little about the real occult, and thus a great deal of the work such as the Egyptians, the Lemurians, and the Syrians that they now take credit for was actually in the hands of another faction, and through marriage ties they have linked themselves with this faction. What I'm explaining here is that if it took the Queen all the way until the 1600s until she could have put the order out for Sir John Dee to begin to find ways to open up hyperdimensional portals, then why is it that they say they had the knowledge to do this already because they had possessed the knowledge of the Egyptians? The royal family in place now, who's been proven several times to have inserted themselves into royal families, have continued to purport that they are the original descendants of the Egyptians and the Lemurians and the Syrians and many more factions. But the fact of the matter is, if they did not know how to open up hyperdimensional portals and did not attempt to until the 1600s, then everything that we're dealing with, at least after 1650, is strictly of their conjecture, meaning it is possible for the human race to be assimilated within 150 years at maximum, because the information that is coming across is such a high content that a person is not remembering what came before. So it's important to see that this certain point, and then we'll go on. It says this faction is actually more popularly referred to as the reptilians. However, it is now become clear that when these entities arrived in this system, they did not have a terrestrial form, and they began to assimilate the beings that were already here. Some of the beings, like the snake, were chosen for its unique traits that were more pleasing to the ETs, that could be enhanced with their DNA manipulation techniques. What I discovered personally, as anyone that's read the Code to the Matrix definitely knows, that I was very hard on the reptilian, and I continue to bring out the information about some of those factions that are into deep versions of serpent worship that is turned sadistic. The fact of the matter is that there is another faction that is going completely unnoticed because of the misunderstanding of the complete story. The complete story is hyperdimensional or extraterrestrial beings came here to Earth, and they began to cohabit with what was already here. So from my understanding, we discovered that the beings that first came were actually of another physicality, superfluous, and their offspring are the ones that took the physical form. And their physical form offspring were brought about by the blending and the DNA manipulation techniques that always shown around the Anunnaki, and allowed them to make different types of beings that we now discover in Celtic and many different mythos, where there's horn gods and winged gods and things of this nature that some say to still be alive to this day, endowed, because they were of another bloodstream, endowed with the ability to live much more longer than the current lifespan of man. So I go on, I say many of these type of animals preferred by the malevolent ETs are called chthonic. This is the snake, wolf, bat, owl, etc. To fit this criteria, the animal is either nocturnal or vicious by nature. And what I'm bringing forth here is that what I discovered in the Cthulhu's Bible, which is a book that is not recommended for anyone to read because it is extremely dark. In this book, what it speaks of is that they are worshiping a God that is asleep and about to awake. And he is the Lord of sleep, something of a Morpheus, but called Cthulhu. And as the indigenous had also mapped out that in the traits of other individuals, of certain animals here on Earth, you can see the more aggressive traits, meaning the difference between a koala bear and a hungry wolf. So these beings that were of the opposite, these animals that were of the opposite persuasion were called chthonic beings, or nighttime beings. And here you see underneath this a picture of Inanna, who is also Venus, who is also Ishtar, who is also Lilith, etc. This is why the owl is used as the symbolism behind much of the dark arts. And many are, of course, familiar with the dollar on the owl on the dollar bill. Many are familiar with the Bohemian Grove affiliation with worshiping the owl. And some may even be familiar with Wikipedia's affiliation also as using the owl logo. One should ask themselves, the word owl, which is O-W-L, is an anagram for low. So many, and it is known that also that the owl was chosen because it can see and hunt things in the night. So generally it sneaks up on its prey without it even noticing, and it also uses sonar. Some even claim that the owl a long time ago was a genetically modified bird containing things that were actually located within the dolphin, but we're yet to find any paperwork on that, and I doubt that we will. So as I go on, the second generation of these beings were referred to as the Anakim, or the sons of Anak. They are also referred to as the Anunnaki, who are Kabbalistically referred to as Anna. In the Kabbalah, there are many four-letter words that act as doubles. This is Abba, Appa, Mam, and many others, all spun in ciphers of numerical equivalents to the square. And if anyone is familiar with the term the square, which is a Masonic term, they know that the Kabbalah itself is the composition of, on one of its ciphers, 4-digit words of power called names. And the Anunnaki, or the Anakim, also known as the Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars, are the beings that are manifesting themselves forth now and appearing to be the V, as we will continue to see in this publication. But at this moment, as you see, there is a video there, and we're going to allow those that are viewing, once again, that website is www.matrixunderground.com. That's www.matrixunderground.com. We are underneath the picture of Inanna, Venus, and we're going to allow those individuals that are tuning in to play this video and to get the association that is going on between this faction that is representing itself as the V and the name Anna. Okay, we are forward, as I always say, and we're going to continue from here. And of course, you've seen that video. And what I'm revealing here, or what we're revealing, is showing that this leader of the V represents herself on the TV show as Anna. And for those that are following our synchromistic work, to understand that the powers that be, or the powers that want to be, are communicating with us through many different signs and symbols. And we can take those symbols and interpret them and allow them to give us a little bit more to think about, but not guide us totally. Understand what I mean by that? So we'll go here, and it says, understanding this language of hypercommunication is to understand sacred geometry, which is not so sacred. In addition to talismans, Enochian script, and sigils, it is apparent at this point that most of these design systems in circulation are used within the dark arts, even if it is purported to be edgewise. Others are so corrupted from misuse, there is a great need to find another system to associate with. In reading a book of high mysticism, I was brought aware that the sacred geometry and much of the symbols that we're using right now, the hyperdimensional beings are laughing that we're using those actual symbols to symbolize certain things. And one of those symbols that is the most apparent is the heart symbol. First of all, one should ask themselves, the heart is not shaped like a physical heart. So how are we associating that with the heart? And what is that symbol really? And many will begin to discover the work of the V's and different things that have been going on to use this symbol to subconsciously manipulate mankind. So this is what I mean by many different symbols that have been corrupted. We can't really determine their original use, but we know the way they're being used now, based on the interpretation they're given, is having a negative effect on people. And we are now terming that, again, over-terrestrial technology. This is when a person's aura or oversoul is being affected from a level they do not understand. So I go on, and it says the true system of heightened spirituality is located internally, unique to each individual, as the soul of the human being is superfluous and not a straight line. No pattern of the human soul can be duplicated and put into a cookie cutter. Such is the brilliance of the Most High. What needs to be understood here is that when you look at the soul, it contains no straight line. So thus the symbolism of a straight line, as you look up around you and you see that straight line on your window, is a symbol of what's called inorganic, that has been falsely called masculine, while the oval shape has been called feminine. And this is the terminology that's been given. However, it turns out that the soul and the body of the human contains no straight lines. So obviously, all designs that contain a straight line have something to do with artificial information. And we're not saying that this technology or this information cannot be used in a positive way. We're just asking that individuals are mindful of exactly what straight lines do versus curved lines when it comes to the mind. And I say here, to foil the great plot of theosophy, it should be clear to the reader to imagine your body as two interlocking tetrahedrons, which is a 3D hexahedron, is all ready to bring about limitation. The Merkaba is a vehicle to the sphere of Saturn, Sat, who is also Satan, as depicted popularly. In all corresponding dimensions such as 9, we are much more, containing the capability of traversing all of inner space. What has been discovered is that the hexagon, which is not only on the pole of Saturn, but also is a symbol that predates anything to do with Judaism, is exactly what it is, a hex. And one playing around in this three-dimensional hexagon, which is also a cube, can find themselves stuck in an altered reality, which we will not get into now. But these numbers and these shapes and systems, as we will continue to reveal in the future in the series known as Where It All Leads, we will show where these geometric shapes come from. So right now, if anyone is just logging in, we are at www.matrixunderground.com. We are here. I'm here with my co-host Son, and we're doing the interactive show about over-terrestrial assimilation. As we go on, personally, I find it is very disturbing that there are highly respected individuals in the esoteric community that are perpetrators. In all actuality, they are theosophists who have spoken against many things that they know have slipped and align with such as the New Age movement, which is the Great Deception. What I'm bringing forth here is that most of us that are now educated in the esoteric work, because we have showed ourselves approved by studying, have come across many individuals' work. In those forms of work, we found enlightenment. We found several levels of deeper understanding. And we have found these individuals as being somewhat of our spiritual guides down the path. And so it is most appalling, even for me, to find out that many of the individuals that are so highly respected in this industry of spirituality have aligned themselves with this same faction that I've showed briefly introduced above, which is called the V, but is still more affiliated with Inanna, Isis, and all the deities that roll underneath the goddess pantheism. As I've mentioned before in the video, I can't actually remember the name of the video, but in the video we show that the word goddess is actually the term goddess, and that's actually in Serpent Worship 1. The goddess is a play on words. It's not saying the goddess as a feminine being as we've misunderstood it. It's saying the god S, which is the name of the reptilian god, which is S, and spelled E-S. I go on, I said, behind them is clearly an entity that does not like Earth. So thus the biggest part of the agenda has been to make the humans feel like they are from somewhere else and not citizens of the Earth. In this state, they begin to neglect Earth, but most importantly, themselves. We are internal beings. We can easily look to the celestial body within. When a name is given, corruption is at play. Individuals have found themselves thinking maybe they are from the Pleiades, maybe from Mars, maybe from Sirius, maybe from Draco. The list goes on and on, while most of these people have no clue what they are channeling, not to mention most have still never made contact. This is a very simple way to leave oneself open. One must remain present. We all have a great stake to Mother Earth as our memory base lives here, also called the Akashic Records. We must stand for Earth. What I'm talking about here is that it seems like with the advent of the New Age movement, which many of these individuals said they weren't a part of and spoke heavily against it because they knew it was a theosophical deception, but it shows definitely that we have to take a closer look at why we want to leave Earth and why we imagine we are from these star systems that they've given us the name for, we've never seen before, we've never traveled to, and most have never communicated with. In my experiences, I've only been able to channel anything based on my own personal vibration, my own sound. When using other sounds and evoking other beings, there is no telling what can happen. So one has to look closely to notice the play. If everything that we're supposed to be is somewhere else beside here, then that leaves us not present. It leaves us not in our body. And if we ate from this earth, just as we go get a meal every day, because earth is abundant in giving forth fruit and food, despite what's being done to her, that is what we can verify. That is what's present. So to continue to allow such atrocities what is coming about with people's souls in regards to this V movement is to shy away in the time in which one is needed the most. This is now a time for us to stand up and say things exactly as they are and not fool ourselves and other people by continuing to follow in the direction of individuals that do not deserve our company. We'll go on. I say here now to disclose the big disclosure, because that is what this show is about today, as we will continue to bring forth many more installments. It's about disclosure. It's about getting all the information out in the open so that people have an opportunity to make the choice. Our duty here is to bring you the information. What you decide to do with it is none of our business. Going on with first, this is in regards to Panic Demonium and Bobby Hemmett. Many who have seen the serpent worship videos have noticed that I've highlighted a group of individuals that have really been bringing forth information of the darkness and the high caliber of darkness. But in the meantime, they're telling everyone else that, and they're twisting words and making all the knowledge seem as if people are supposed to be getting involved with the dark arts, and they're supposed to, in confronting their fear, get involved with things that they most definitely won't be able to reverse. Going on and reading, I say this is a recent Facebook photo of Panic's personal shrine. Again, I care not for what people choose to do, but when masquerading around as an avatar while affecting the people through deception begins to take place, it is a must it be highlighted. You can look at the resistance as none other than the faction that when an individual comes out in deception, we have no choice but to highlight their deception so that individuals know exactly what they're getting involved with if they choose to continue to affiliate with these people. In the beginning, this pro-black movement was even noting how Barack Obama was actually initiated and sent to the task by the Theosophical Society. Although loosely they continued to make the people believe that they were here to help African Americans make the transition, this was nothing but true. And once again, the people have been betrayed by money-hungry warlocks that will sell any soul they can attach to, and that we call the Black V. So what I'm showing first here, before I get into what comes later on, is that this symbol, the V, which is actually what you see when you see an inverted pentagram. First, you see the V. which is the face of this goat god, is being showed in several movements. It's not pro-black, it's not pro-white. To understand that the resistance is not taking any one side of black or white. We're simply highlighting what's going on, who's involved, and what the esoteric work says about it. So as it was brought forth from these individuals, they said that Barack Obama was sent by the Theosophical Society to continue to do much work in the White House, especially in regards to the United Nations. Then what we discover is these individuals have now set themselves up only to be accepted into this same program. Basically the old concept of if you can't beat them, join them. Still never realizing that they don't want you to join. It should be very clear. I go on. What I was explaining about these fellows, their affiliation with the dark arts is out in the open, but the people still remain blind. They drain more money than ever from the people, and most importantly, because of the hyperterrestrial behavior explained above, many, fast asleep, have been assimilated, imagining that dark matter and melanin have something to do with the dark arts and the goat god Pan. The reason why I'm really addressing this is that there's been a misconception that the dark matter, also known as the God particle, which has been discovered as being the most of space. As you look up in the sky, you see darkness. What actually is made of that has something to do with dark arts and even melanin. Also even saying that melanin itself has something to do with dark arts. This is a deep misconception, and someone must say something about this because it's causing many individuals that are melanin dominant to begin to wander after the beast, for better lack of words. Going on, again, many have already been assimilated by purchasing their false ascension packages full of names of various lower dimensional scum. Their recent stunt was to prostitute the people to the Ganesha, which was exposed in serpent worship Deuce. And this Ganesha project, also called the Ganesha particle, is a major part of the Theosophical assimilation procedure. And again, those who are just signing on, we are at the Matrix Underground. That's www.matrixunderground.com. We are broadcasting live on the interactive show, and we will be available to take calls. We are just getting the first part of the first segment of this show out so that all of you that have questions about what's being presented are able to understand in its totality what exactly we're saying. Going on, well, actually, before I go on, I wanted to talk about this Ganesha project and the Ganesha particle. Many are familiar with the deity Ganesha, which is the elephant-faced god, also known to be the son of Brahman, the son of the Brahmin in Hindu pantheism, which is far too deep for us to account here and far too full of different deities to be bowed down and worshipped. And what we have discovered is that there is a project that is titled Ganesha. Obviously, this being has become very receptive to the communication procedure going on now in this over-terrestrial technology. This Ganesha particle has been introduced by individuals that are saying that there is a communication claim that an individual could use. And any person that you see at this point telling an individual to start to talk to Ganesha, build shrines to Ganesha, and things of this nature are somehow being assimilated and a part of a theosophical procedure that is just allowing people to, again, wander after anything but what they need to be focusing on, which is themselves, and understanding exactly who they are and preparing their body for their ascension, which is taking place now. Going on, so in a nutshell, these individuals have done nothing more than attempt to make a name and a presence for themselves so that they can link with their societies that are likened unto the boule. The eyes tell everything. These are the same individuals that will do anything and anyone to get ahead. Let that be known. This is the final time the resistance will warn about Mr. Him and Pan. So those who curry messages about, give that one to them. This is our last time discussing what's going on with Pandemonium and Bobby Hemmett. Any individual that continues to affiliate with them have been warned. Going on, what comes next in this disclosure is one of the most difficult things to accept, as I myself, like many others, grew up, for better lack of words, off of what many of these individuals affiliated with the alien shift have presented. To see it all go to the dogs, I cannot be responsible for, as it is a major part of the great deception I spoke of above. Many people are familiar with our work. Our work is even at, I believe, 30,000 downloads. And so if we have already chose to take a stance for mankind and the greater good and the balanced positivity of the world, it is important that we highlight, once again, organizations that are going under the title of what I'm calling the Great Deception. And one of these is now alien shift. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence to support what we will unveil, and one should know we are the resistance, the real thing. And if all want to remain diplomatic and not say anything, we are cut from an entirely different cloth and will not stand for such things or shy away at a pivotal moment. What I show here is 6 o'clock. This is a word that I've ciphered many times, VI, which is the Roman numeral for 6, but being the root of words like vision, words like Viking, and many different words are definitely one of the words of the V. But below that, what you'll see is you'll see a video of what I call Masonic idealism. And in this video, what you'll see is exactly how they perceive the world and how they perceive their power. This movie that this has been excerpted from is the new Sherlock Holmes film. And one should understand that the end of this individual that's being depicted here he was a complete charlatan, just as the Wizard of Oz is on just as the wizard is on the Wizard of Oz operating behind the curtain. So we will give everyone here one moment, or I believe this video is about 3 minutes, to look at this video. Anyone that's just logging in, we're at www.matrixunderground.com. We're here with the interactive show with the co-host Son. And we're asking right now for everyone to view the video that's underneath the clock. That is at 6 o'clock. And that video is available for you now. So we'll take a moment.
And I see you in the chat room with your hand up. So as soon as we come back, we'll try to address you.
Okay, we are back with you again. We're at www.matrixunderground.com. I'm here with my co-host, Son, and we are presenting Hyperterrestrial Assimilation technology and exactly what it does. We are going to take a caller that has put their hand up, as Son says, and wants to.
This is caller 770. I'm going to let you in. Just tell us your name and where you're from.
Hi, this is Angela, and I'm from Fayetteville, Georgia.
Hi, Angela.
Hi. I was calling in because, I'm one of those people that, has spent a lot of time listening to Pan and to Bobby Hemmett. And, I joined the resistance, and there was a sense I felt torn, to be honest. I mean, I understand everything that's being said on both sides to some degree, but, I'm not an advanced person spiritually. I've spent a lot of time reading a lot of literature and that kind of thing, and I try to meditate. And so, trying to make, I guess you could say, the decision of this nature that's really an emotional kind of decision based on just having intellectual understanding is not that easy. And I'm calling because I think I know that they both have a lot of people, and African Americans, I'm African American, that they appeal to on an emotional level, and I'm one of those. So I don't know what you can say more than what you already said, but I mean, a lot of what you say is very advanced spiritually, and it's a reach for someone like myself to get to where you are, to really prove. Do you understand?
Well, yeah, I'm definitely.
I don't know if I'm making myself clear or what.
We're definitely very clear, Angela. I know exactly where you're coming from. I want to thank you for calling in and listening to the show. Uh-huh. And what I want to say first off is that we started really with the ascension process from the body, really, like how to actually put yourself into a higher level of consciousness through cleansing your system, alkalizing your body, the different things, eliminating certain things out of the diet, fluoride, and things of this nature. So it doesn't take one to be a quantum physicist at all to start the process of ascension. In fact, some of the simplest individuals will make it the furthest. We've had no choice but to step up into the level of information that's being revealed because it's of value right now to mankind because we're at a pivotal point. This is the actual time in which, in history, many factions have been waiting on, and that transition process, and many people are seeing the synchronizations within their own life. All this stuff means something, and what it basically means is that something very big is happening, and there's a communication coming from on high, and we can't allow that communication to be distorted for whatever reason. But it's still understanding that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, still understanding that there are individuals, because as your mother may say, the world has all types. There's individuals, there are large groups of individuals that have no concern, and it's only because you can't see them, or actually sometimes you can, but you can't see them in general behind the scenes, or what even in their mind at times. And advanced spiritual people can do that by looking into a person's eyes or even listening to a person's voice. They can tell whether the individual, what kind of energy they're carrying. And so nowadays, because this whole quest is still about you, we can't get attached to the individual. We have to get into the message. And that's why personally, but that is going to change here in a week. I'm going to now reveal exactly who I am and bring in some very nice techniques out that I have to do in person, some breathing techniques and things. But people will see for the first time who exactly I am and what we're about here at the Resistance and the Matrix Underground. But the reason why we did not do that in the beginning, because people would be fascinated with who I am versus what is being presented. And that's what you get with organizations where individuals get in love with the man and not the mission. And we've seen that time and time again, especially in the black community, with individuals like Dr. York and several individuals that have shown in the end to not be able to carry the torch completely. But what I will say with all these individuals, we do learn something. Some of these individuals have given us purpose. Like we wouldn't be here today highlighting some of the things that are going on in the hyperdimensional whatever if there wasn't some force that was already tampering with us from a hyperdimensional angle. You see what I mean? And so that forced us to say, okay, well, what is this? Because I see way more going on in the world. And what I do is I try to take it from the beginning of when I first start seeing it. And sometimes in the later recordings it does get into stuff that's a little bit difficult to understand. But here's what I will say, because the Most High is still looking over all things. I've read stuff at times that I didn't understand whatsoever. I mean, I didn't understand it. Like I was reading some stuff, I think it's because the book was called Aish Mezaraf. It was even in another language with the English commentary. But as I continued to read it, it was about cubes and magical cubes and numbers. I began to actually understand, and I noticed that if one just keeps trying and trying, they actually understand. But it does still, it's determined by how much that person feels that's important compared to what else is going on. And I feel like personally that everyone should take advantage of this opportunity to get involved in the spiritual ascension process. And here's why. And I can tell you, I could say millions of reasons why. But one of the main reasons why is that you can see in the history that choosing to remain in one state of mind or one mode will always bring about end. Like if one stayed in the Iron Age, they were going to be left in the Iron Age. Now we were in the Space Age just a minute ago, or the Age of Technology, and now we're going into ether. And so if we can consciously make that decision to get ourselves involved in that level of things without being persuaded to go one direction or another, but that's still external, meaning that going to one person's faction and belief system and another, you can get the information, you take the information back within yourself, the stuff that's important that you feel like is a topic or a study that vies with you, and then you go back and retreat into yourself to get, as it says, treat yourself again to the knowledge, because what you're doing is you're investing in yourself. Now, when it comes to individuals like the individuals spoken of, Mr. Hammond and Mr. 10. What happens here is that now if they had to come out initially with what they're doing now, as I do understand a lot about mysticism and reaching the level of the depth and beyond, what they're bringing forth is not new. It can be the symbols itself and how they represent themselves can be investigated with Wiki and can be determined easily to be negative, dark, demonic things. But what's been done is they put a spin on it, and that's the only reason why I've gotten involved, and said that has to do with dark matter, which is about space and a whole different thing, and it also has to do with melanin, which points directly at us and attacks all of us who have melanin in our skin, even someone with red hair and freckles. So the thing is that this can't continue to be allowed to go on my watch. And that's why the individuals know that if they don't want this to take place on my watch, they know what move they need to make next. But what they will find out at that point is that what's going on here is that there's way more at stake here on Earth than just 1 or 2 or even 1,000 or 3,000 different individuals, or let's even say 1 million different individuals and what they choose. We have a whole database of life forms that are here just within the insects and the birds alone that are just far too vast for us to continue to allow this faction to drop depleted uranium and bombs and things on it. And we've discovered that their arm of spirituality, because they cover multiple areas, but their spiritual arm has actually infested communities like we call the black community, definitely the white community, and definitely every other community if a person is not clear. And that's why the moment that we are showed something and we investigate it and we find it to be not good for us, that's the moment that we turn away from it. So what I look at this is there's, yes, thousands of people now involved in these individuals' movements, and I see them as hostages. And this is a host stage, as I say it is. But again, there's no more that we can do than highlight it, and we do that in a very thorough and proper way. And it's just, again, like I state in this script, it's very difficult to have to look at what's happening here, but it's even more difficult to look at that no one will say nothing. The elders should be handling this. I'm only 31. So the elders should be handling, hey, brother, you got to not be teaching our people this because it showed we've got lost souls on the other side of fractalized dimensions, meaning dimensions that are imperfect, that are dismembered. And this is a real world, but what's happened is that, of course, spirituality wasn't put at the forefront anymore. But before, that was all man had. Mankind and woman did not have any technology or anything like that. All they had was the crystals and things. But that was all you needed. And that's also why we do a lot of information, and we bring a lot of information forth on the crystals. So I hope, sister.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask you one more thing before you go, and that is, now how does one extricate themselves from all of this after you've opened up this door? Because I've already had an experience where one night I was laying in my bed and I heard this voice say, set. And then there was this pulling on my solar plexus. And I was given a vision of a boy's face. And it was crystal clear, like I was looking right at him. And then like one of his eyes closed and mutilated. It was like a mutilated close. And I thought at that point that, I had opened myself up to something. So now then, if that is true, now what do I do?
All you have to do, sister, is first you remove all objects and things related to the pantheistic and the religious substance, crosses, all these different things. Second thing one does is, go ahead.
Pictures as well? Pictures as well? Okay.
Yes, definitely shrines and these type of things, because it's just very, very good at this point to get the space clear. Then what you're going to do is you're going to get some real sea salt. You're also going to get some camphor. Camphor can be found in cubes. It can be found in a lot of places, so you shouldn't, especially in Georgia, it shouldn't be difficult to find, especially if you go in the little 5 points. Somewhere in there in Sevan in that area, they'll have it there.
Okay.
So what you're going to do with this is that with the salt bath, you have to, well, I'm in a foreign country. They don't have bathtubs that much out here. They have bathtubs there. So what you're going to do is you're going to run a hot bath, and you're going to get the salt in the bathtub, and you're going to take a bath in the salt. And then what you're going to do is you're going to visualize the cutting of ties, like any person that you see or know, and this is something that you just do to get yourself lighter, whether it's mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, friend, all these images, you should start from when you first remember seeing people. This is one of the most powerful techniques of going into higher levels of ascension, because you can always interact with someone, but sometimes they leave what a lot of the indigenous and a lot of people know to be something like a tie or a hook, or when they desire you, and these different types of things. So all you want to do is just begin to cut the ties of the individuals that immediately come to your mind. This is also good. This is also better rather than the bathtub to do in the shower, where you can actually scrub your body with salt, making sure that you get the small of the bath, and then that will clear you. And then what you can do with the camphor, if the environment's not clear, is that for some reason, lower dimensional beings do not like the smell of camphor, and they completely vacate the premises, and that is how one gets things clean. They shouldn't be concerned about any ties and different things that have been said to be on them, and if they know that they've done something like that, all they have to do is visualize whatever your cutting device is, whether it be sword or a large pair of scissors or whatever, and cut the cord. And it's as simple as that. And that is, and that you'll find to be something that works 100%. And of course, if you ever have a chance to tune into, well, you're a member of the site, so you see the things that are there, especially in regards to internet, to keep the vibration on a constant level.
Yeah, I have been doing, and
you have to turn the computer down.
Okay, I got you. Okay, go ahead.
So, no, I was saying, yes, I have been doing that. I mean, I've been on the site. I've been making use of a lot of the, I've been using the MMS and doing the, listening to the chakra tones and things of that nature. And I'm trying to do as much as I see available to do. And just, but again, I have still been drawn to, listening to these guys occasionally and some of the stuff that they say. So, what you're saying?
Well, I mean, it's all entertaining, and this is it's all entertaining to a certain point. At the same time, we understand exactly where you're coming from, because we are you. We've been at every single stage of the existence right now, and so we can understand exactly where people are coming from. This is not something that you have to do with tears, but it's important to set a guideline. Like if you can imagine yourself that if you have to now traverse space, like if you have to, which is in your mind, it's inner space. But if you have to travel this territory, you now have to begin to remove all things that are somewhat related to, especially anything negative. Really, if you want to go far, anything about this earth, and just leave it open to energy. But these are the systems that have been used to get individuals into the highest states of consciousness and purity without getting attached to things that, what we're highlighting here on the show, we can give you their story as far as what they're involved in and where these beings come from. And, of course, I don't know if you've read the Code to the Matrix, but it says it as it is. And so at this point, we will only have to say the ball is back in the person's court. Again, what we say and what we talk about is what we have to contribute, but what a person does with that is none of our business. And again, we show in multiple areas what is exactly going on. It is a blow to find out, like there's still more to this show, and hopefully we get a chance to get through it, because we have this. They're not even the meat of it, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm just case closing on them, as I said in this thing. Whoever can, because there are people we share. I know at least 50 common people, because I've seen that on Facebook, and those who query messages back and forth can tell them that, they don't have to worry about the resistance saying anything else about them. It's case closed, but it's a very big case. Like when you look at, the servant worship 1 and 2, what's being said, how it's being said, and then one can just go and look for themselves. But they're not the only ones doing this, and there's other individuals that have to be highlighted, and that's it. Then what people choose after that, that's really our only objective here, is to get the information out. And it's important, though, because you can enjoy. I'll tell you this personally before I let you go. You can enjoy. I'm experiencing it. We're experiencing it here. It's different than the individuals that say, hey, this may happen. Like if you contact me personally from the website and things like that, you need help at a certain process, you'll find that we respond. Many of these individuals are running a monologue. You can't even get in touch with them or talk to them about anything they said. So that shows who's here and who's not, because with technology these days, you can contact 800 to 1,000 people and at least let them know how things are going. And that's what we feel like is our position, is to bring forth what's presently going on. Because we're in the present. We're not in the past. We're not in the future, because that brings about all sorts of things. But presently, this is what's going on. This is who's involved. This is what they're doing. Judge for yourself.
Okay, well, thank you for
your
extensive answer. I appreciate it.
Thank you for calling.
Oh, no problem, Angela. Thank you for calling in.
I'm just going to mute your line, but you should still be on the phone. So
okay.
We have 23 minutes left, and again, thank you for calling and your questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that things are kind of going at a high pace, we're going to just keep things going. We got 23 more minutes left, and I'm already seeing that we're not going to be able to get through completely to what we had presented for today's show. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to highlight a couple points. We're going to do a movie, of course, about today's show. For those that are just coming on, we're at www.matrixunderground.com. That's www.matrixunderground.com. We're doing an interactive show. And we have a second segment of the show that we're most certainly going to need to air. And I wanted to highlight a few things, because now that the information is actually live, I have 20 minutes to go through what's listed here. Later on, the individual can look at what's being presented and what's written and make the decision for themselves. So I'll just start it this way. We'll start from the picture of the media. Now, this is the goddess Media. Don't ask me why she's got this knife around the kids, but Media is one of the deities that they worship, also called Mediatrix. The Media has actually been using different types of technology to embed certain triggers within a person's mind. This is also shown in Sony's logo here, HDNA, high definition. It's in our DNA. That's one of Sony's logos. Sony is also Scion. The Y is an I. So what I was bringing this up about is that basically the V series is a part of TV. So you would think, and I guess you would think also maybe the Resistance is a part of TV too. But what we have to show is that it's unbelievable that the reality itself is manifesting itself right off the screen. There is a faction that has now brought themselves forth and introduced themselves as the V. Now, currently, our outtake on the V, not only within its symbolism, its signs, and different things like that, has always been of a negative connotation, and there has been no one to come forth to prove that that is edgewise, especially in the deeper levels of mysticism. So what I show here is a card that is of the event called Alien Ship, the actual webpage that is of an actual outing that's being put together right now, that's about bringing all these people that you see in this picture together, and so that they can discuss how they are basically going to start an assimilation process using what they are terming as over-terrestrial technology. And this is done through the many different parts of sacred geometry, like I mentioned above. So the leader of this group, as you see, there are already individuals on this card that are well known, and even I myself, through, like I write in here, through a synchronistic situation, had bumped into Stuart Swerdlow with 24 pages of something that I removed from one of his publications, and I edited on my own, and I attached to the appendix of the Code of the Matrix so everyone can see that information. And at that point, I did not know in the future that I would have another interaction with Stuart Swerdlow. So it just shows how things go full circle. So here we are. Their apparent leader is a man by the name of Saeed Farman, and who this individual seems to have a Zachariah Sitchin type feel. I'm not sure where exactly he's from, but it seems like he's definitely affiliated with that same faction. He has now brought together the individuals that are at the top of most of the individuals that are at the top of the esoteric world that have been disclosing and doing different things and teaching techniques. And all of this would be actually great. It would look like a whole seminar of all of our favorite people getting together, but unfortunately, that's not the case. This group is representing itself as the V very clearly, as you see in the picture. Mr. Farman is typing to and leaving messages to other individuals reviewing his page and saying how he is V, and V is here to help, and V does not like what mankind, what the weapons is doing. But basically using the term V itself is what I believe is a bad choice in using a term. And any of these individuals on this card could easily say, especially someone of the caliber of Stuart Spurlow could say, hey, why don't we choose to use another connotation because that is associated with something else? But that's not it. We see a picture here of Sharon from Ashtar Command, and everyone knows that Ashtar Command is affiliated with the New Age movement and what I just call hybrid Cathars. So what I'm questioning is that why did an individual such as Carrie Cassidy come right out in the beginning of the project and say that they weren't with the New Age movement, they knew the New Age movement was a deception, it was theosophy, but now at this point they're now bringing in the Ganesha Project and doing things with Bosman and all of this stuff, and we were told by these individuals that, and I will quote here is the invitation to the alien event, also called the Alien Shift Project. Now, haven't these individuals on this very card warned so proficiently implications that we should stay away from ET, reptilian, and any other dimensional beings attempting to shift, alter, or assimilate us? At this point, it is now clear to me also why I was synchronistically bumped heads with Swerdlow. And notice all this conversion begins on the vernal equinox. Because what I do highlight here is that March the 20th is the real beginning of the year, not December. And that is the turn of the vernal equinox and the time in which Easter is determined, or Astar. And sure enough, on March the 20th, the event begins with this individual. Continuing to go on, we see the symbolism that they choose to use is the waning moon, meaning the moon that's actually losing energy, and the star. But to highlight what direction the star is turned, which is definitely of concern now these days, if you look on their Twitter page, we see the star is actually inverted. And what I highlight here is that there is no inverted picture of this crop circle on the internet. So someone had to physically take time to invert the star just so they can make it a part of their logo here. And so that means someone put in a tent. Going on with Aaron McCollum, and again, when we do the next show, we're going to continue to fluff, as I say, we're going to fluff this whole thing. We're going to put more stuff in here, and we're going to show you even more of what's happening, and we're probably going to do a 2-hour show. But what I'm talking about here is that this individual is coming forth and disclosing things as a Coast Guard. And last time we checked that many of the ops were in different parts of the armed forces, and that there was virtually nothing that the Coast Guard was doing with Project Talent at all. And this is information from the fifth column. And so what has to be bought and understood at this point is that I obviously can see the play, because the moment that they aired the interview of Alex McCullum, then immediately the traffic that was taken from that publication was funneled to the Alien Shift, in which I may highlight is $200 per ticket. And what I did say is that, man, people are having a hard time even paying their mortgage these days, especially in the Midwest and different places. And if they don't have to worry about maybe missing the ship or the bus, so if they don't pay $200. And so why is it that these same factions that told us that, and these factions came out, Ashtar Command says, hey, we're here to help humankind. Obviously, in the Code of the Matrix, we showed you everything that was going on with them in the beginning. But now it's proven itself. They've been out for at least 4 to 5 years now, promising that their ships will come and help the whole world and save us, basically, only to show that here we are 5 years later and the story has changed, and they're saying that we have 7 years' worth of tribulation ahead, meaning that their actual message, as you'll see as you continue to scroll through this document, is that there's 7 more years after 2012 that is going to be the 7-year tribulation, and in that period, man will suffer everything from revelation. Now, what exactly happened to the ships and the utopian societies? Showing once again that these people cannot be trusted, they cannot be followed, and as I said before, as a clause here, if anyone has a problem with what I'm saying and thinks that I'm misrepresenting them, and I have not thoroughly investigated things, which is I know to be not true, they have an opportunity to come on the Esoteric Radio, and we will definitely publicate them and let everyone know they will be here, and they can explain for themselves exactly what they are involved in. But I do also comment after that, I don't think they'll be doing that, because we can clearly see here that we have this whole thing in a package. Son, how much time exactly do we have left?
All right. We have 14 minutes exactly.
Okay, so we're doing pretty decent then. We're doing decent. I'll continue to go on. I show a video here with Saeed Farman just to show what his mentality is. And in this video, again, for those who are just logging on, we're at www.matrixunderground.com. You'll see this video after about 4 pictures after Spy versus Spy. The Spy versus Spy picture, you'll see a video there. This is showing what the mentality of Saeed Farman is. He's basically said to everyone, what he's saying, I'm a little incoherent about understanding, first off, but what he's saying in so many words is that the human race is going to die, and that he's channeled the ETs also, so he's going to die in 3 days. They need to clarify much of this and stop wasting people's time. This is about ascension. They're continuing to use the 1111 codes and different things like that that we've already mapped out to be digital programming. And last but not least, before we get into a few more things that are more related to something else I want to talk about, but I wanted to highlight one. I'm coming into more information, and like I said, there are individuals working around the clock. Not too many people understand how many people are involved in the resistance and how much access we do have to information. But one thing that was highlighted is that what is going on with Project Camelot and why they won't interview individuals of color. Why will they not interview individuals like Dr. Blair and Joel Pookrum, who have clearly given the esoteric world something they've contributed great things to the esoteric world, and not at all affiliated with some of the things that a lot of the individuals that have been interviewed are affiliated with. Even I myself being brought to the attention of Project Camelot and then knowing 100% that I've made contact, but still not even inviting me or so much as giving a message. So I just wanted to let them know that the faction itself, just in case they forgot, has no color lines. As we see here with Jay-Z, do what thou wilt on his chest. And as I say about that, they want to do what they want. But at this point, the resistance is not allowing that to happen any longer. We're going to continue to highlight what individuals are doing and what exactly it means. As you continue to finish off in the document, you see the V affiliation with the United Nations. And it's most interesting that I actually talked about earlier that as above, so below. So if there's a new world order on earth, then it would have to be a new world order in heaven. And if they were trying to accomplish something like that. And sure enough, I just recently came across other individuals that were affiliated with this whole V thing, because they're all linked together, even on the internet. So this is nothing that they're attempting to hide from. The Andromedan Galactic Council, which is also who's bought for Bosman to introduce everyone to this over-terrestrial assimilation technological programming. Again, still trying to figure out where this stuff comes from, and still knowing 100% that it's not taking people up. It's taking people into basically nothingness, which is what part of that Ganesha particle is about. But we won't get into that right now. What we'll finish off here is this actual posting says, by the Andromedan Council, it says, they are the United Nations of the universe. And as I say here, for the first time, we don't need a United Nations in the universe. Trust me on that. And so that is where I'll finish off here. I definitely wanted Son to highlight a few things that went on in the last show, and to give us an overview of some things that were mentioned and maybe weren't showed, especially with the Basquiat and the affiliation with the merging of the culture and the Warhol kids. And we can do that. We can take actually the show out with that. And I want to thank everyone for coming to the resistance and enlightening yourself.
No doubt. Like that was deep. And this whole thing is about assimilation. And this is basically the merging that we're talking about. We're talking about assimilation. So, I just got an email from some conspiracy magazine, but the conspiracy now are the behind the scenes of what rappers are fighting about, complete saturation of it, of the word, to make you feel like, to make you feel foolish if you talk about it. So last show was, as you know, Empire of the Sun, Esoterrorist production, and we have New America Part 2, and all of this is, again, on matrixunderground.com. So you can see this, and it's directly below all of the information that Sevan just gave us. New America Part 2, Return of the Ankh, and you see it comes out 3/30, March 30th, and this is around the same, around the same time as this Alien Shift. 3/30/2010, and then it's you add the 2 and the 1, and then under it says maybe. So there goes more of that confusion. And then if you look on her Twitter account, it's Fat Belly Bella. I love Erykah Badu. I saw her perform. Great artist. It's just, now we're like, why you have the 333 on the Twitter? Like, what is this telling us? So that symbol that she has on her face, you can see I'm showing you Alexander Jodorowsky, who, the Holy Mountain. Look at this movie, and you seeing the written woman as the Stygian port. They mention this, and they call her a written woman. She's got the same symbol on her face. So directly below that, we put together a quick little fashion doppelganger, and it's showing you two direct portraits that are interpreted as, it's not even a mirror reflection. This is just more something skewed, because when you look at this individual, it almost looks, the skin doesn't look real, and when you're looking at the hands, but this is probably the way it's supposed to be. But what you're looking at is La Sape, gentleman of Bakongo, and this is a man with a pink suit on. He's a black man, like almost literally, he's like charcoal, his skin color. And then next to him you have the Scottish men with their kilts on. So you've seen Kid Cudi recently. I said Kid Cudi's like a doppelganger with Basquiat if you look at his face. But look at that skirt that he's wearing on stage. So Paul Smith, which is a designer, he took his inspiration from these men and used them for his women's Spring 2010 collection in London. So when Lil Wayne sees this uniform, he's like, okay. And I always go to Lil Wayne because he's the one, and now he's about to go to jail, which is another thing. You send the person to jail, you give them his credibility, and they come out wearing something even more bizarre. And now you're wearing the clothes, but you're not only wearing the clothes, you're representing what they're representing. So when you look at these men, you see them posing, you see them with confidence, and you see them with what we call swagger, even the children. But it's twisted by these designers who know very well what they're doing when they create their trim reports, which are, the fashion doppelgangers. And then directly below that, we have Andy Warhol, which we have 6 minutes remaining, so I'm going to wrap this up. Andy Warhol is, just look up Andy Warhol. He's prominent with the art thing, and Basquiat below him, which was basically like his protege. So this is similar to Jimmy Iovine and 50 Cent, or Jimmy Iovine and now Diddy. Andy Warhol is, the guy, so that's who Jimmy Iovine is. If Diddy's the guy, then who signed him? That's the real guy. And they're in this video thing with Vincent Gallo, Iraq, and Terry Richardson. Directly below that is our modern day Andy Warhol, who's more like a cult, and he works directly with Jay-Z. In the videos, when you see that art painting, Jay-Z has something similar to that, but it was a skull painted like that. And you see the formaldehyde animal. He sells these things he made $150 million or something like that in the past year. And you see the $100 million skull, which some people say is not worth it, but that's Damien Hirst, and that's his quote-unquote art. And it's just like Andy Warhol when he pissed on paintings and then, excuse my language, when he peed on the paintings, urinated on them and sold it to you. Because, it's your art is sacred, but, they don't even take the geometry sacred anymore. And when you look at the designers, they tell you that. Directly below that is the end or the death of conscious rap. It's done. No more conscious in rap. It's just rap, or it's just hip-hop. It's just all together, and you see the art is influenced while Swiss Beats claims that Kid Robot is his label. It's not. It's similar to Jay-Z endorsing Mason Martin Margiela, which is one individual, But look up that name Margella, and you won't really find anything on it. Diddy's got the Fez on. He got it from J Electronica. J Electronica is with. He has the baby with Erykah Badu. And we got Common, who used to wouldn't call you a B. He won't even call you Boo. He's going to call you by your name, but now he's calling you everything. And look at Def Jux, who is the other record label that's underground next to Rawkus, you know, but this is a pun because they used to be against Diddy. Now he's in the so that's the death of underground. Okay, basically saying it's all one. And, you know, and now it's about the true independence, and this is what the resistance is. If you have any questions, you interface with us, and we have, you know, plans. We have things working right now to where we are, you know, we're basically independent. This is what the whole thing with the licensing. Like you see the caption under it says licensed rap. That's what Swiss Beats is doing. That's what, one way or another, you know, with the Fez thing. That's another thing. You know, get Diddy in the Fez and get a picture of it. Mel D. Cole took the picture, you know, and all the streetwear community is going to see that. So streetwear is the downtown merging with uptown, Louis Vuitton and A-Life. Downtown and Oliver Zan, and that's that merger. And there's the other assimilation, underground and mainstream, downtown New York and uptown, you know, rich and poor, luxury and streetwear. And, you know, all of the math that Sevan was kicking to you on the surface level of this alienship. This is the assimilation. So I'm
indeed. I mean, it's for those that didn't catch the last show. What was really being presented is how I think we've got about 2 minutes left. 2 minutes. Okay, we're going to get out of here with the Symphony and Science when we close out, and that's a beautiful track. I actually have the video to that for those that want to see it. And what we'll do is we'll close out now. The information is here, so those who want to go over it, and we're definitely on the site. We're on the Resistance. That's www.resistance2010.com, or you can just click the Resistance logo. That's www.resistance2010.com, and we're here for you. We're into ascension and into higher planes of thought, and we're ready to interface with anyone on all levels. And I want to thank everyone, especially at the Resistance, and the individuals such as Son, Miriam, Tina, all of these individuals that are out there that have helped us so much, JC777, and other individuals that I'm not able to mention here, but they know exactly who I mean. And also, I want to also thank, again, my good friend of mine, Robert, able to bring us the Matrix Underground to you live tonight. And you guys are going to be seeing a lot more of Robert's work. And so we just want to go ahead and thank everyone for joining our show. And you can catch us definitely on the live stream if you weren't able to catch what was going on in the beginning of the show. Welcome, everyone, to Esoteric Radio. I'm your host, Sevan, with my co-host, Son. And we have put together quite a show for everyone tonight. The title of the show is Esoterrorist, Hyperterrestrial Assimilation. And this is the first installment of our interactive show, although we definitely brought some things to you last week. And what we're now doing is we're linking that interactive show for those that are online right now at this website, which is www.matrixunderground. That's www.matrixunderground.com. And this is where we will be hosting the virtual show tonight. We have quite a package and quite a few things to get through and to reveal to everyone out in the spiritual world so that they can definitely put themselves into a sounder position. First thing first, I'm going to allow my co-host to introduce himself, and that is Son. Son, if you want to say hello and let everyone know that you are on the line.
I'm on the line, and we're ready to go.
All right. So, again, that website is www.matrixunderground.com. And what actually we're going to talk about today, because a lot of the information that we bring forth on our shows, and if anyone's familiar with the shows that I've done in the past, the information is of a higher intellect and of a higher channel coming from what we just term the Most High, which has no restrictions, no names, no male, no females, no dogmas. And what we're doing at this point is we're broadcasting a message of truth to you, and giving you the tools that are going to be needed for you to empower yourself. Our main objective is ascension and allowing individuals to learn what is necessary for them to learn to get to that level. Before the show even begins, I will say that all the things that are presented here and how you feel about them only serve as more reasons to get activated. There is nothing to fear, but it is most necessary that all the data that is available needs to be presented so that we're able to get, again, a sound, which means firm, and again, energy is sound. So we want you to have a sound foundation of what is actually taking place here. And so this is what we'll do for a moment as just definitely the Queen of England. As far as sheer territory and who is controlling things on the dimension, from parliament to government to every other faculty of resources, we can definitely point things back to the Queen of England. And in addition to that, we can also highlight the Vatican, because the forces that they tend to use are from several angles. One in which is spirituality, one is definitely technology, and multiple angles that we don't even need to get in length in discussing here, but one understanding spirituality. So the individual, Sir John Dee, was the spiritual arm of the Elizabethan dynasty. So going forward, we'll read, in the 1600s, Queen Elizabeth charged Sir John Dee with the task of opening pan-dimensional gates to gain knowledge of how to break the Skynet and traverse the world. John Dee was then ambassador to the Queen signing his name 007. Now, what's here is we're referring to Skynet, which, if anyone remembers, is the company that's in the Terminator. The company that's making the Terminators is called Skynet. What this is a reference to is it's a reference to something that even the indigenous knew about, which is the actual grid that is in the sky or encased around our planet, that is, for better lack of words, holding us from doing extra spatial travel, meaning actually experiencing things outside this dimension. Once one gets conformed to the shape of the grid, then they become programmed and assimilated by the grid. And this is why many grids are hexagonal. But to understand also, before there was a grid, meaning when you were a child, some of us can definitely remember of dreaming of space and dreaming of different planets and things of this nature. And those were, of course, the purest thoughts. So going on, I'll say when finally making contact with the pan-dimensional entities, it is known that John Dee became thoroughly possessed, and the ETs in which he made contact with took his mind, flooding it with data beyond lifetimes of comprehension. With this data, the Dark Enochian language was eventually developed. This is also the advent that brought about the creation of the nuclear bomb, as many know that Jack Parsons was also a part of this order, and later popularly called the Psychonauts, bent on discovering how to turn matter into energy. So based on that's where we are hosting this interactive show. What you'll see a lot of data, but you'll also see text accompanied with that. And what we're going to do during this show, so that nothing is missed as we're enjoying this new format, is we're going to be reading through what's written here and analyzing it from a deeper level, crossing it from multiple planes, meaning back up and back down again. We have to, again, connect what's going on in the stars to what's going on here on Earth, because it is all a fractal. So I will start with this first beginning, and I say as time speeds up at a faster pace, we now face, as a race, hyperdimensional space. One thing that should be understood is that the more that the world gets wealthy, individuals are now taking up more space and acquiring more things for themselves, thus leaving other individuals that do not have the same type of ability of being fortunate with less room. So we have to be aware that in hyperdimensional space, if we go externally, we will try to assimilate and take over everything. But if we go internally, we will find that there is plenty of space there, and we will actually even find ourselves. So the term hyperterrestrial we use to directly refer to our current growth rate. Just as a child is called hyper for moving about fast and not being able to remain focused, the human is faced also with being responsible for analyzing what exactly comes across the portal of information these days, or the consequences could be vast, and the resistance, of course, is here to assist you with that task. There are many that have just begun to embark on esoteric knowledge, while there are also others that are much more adept. Spiritual knowledge itself is far too vast to have a beginning or an end, but it is of value from time to time to do a recap. taking a closer look at certain key points in history, especially, to ascertain what is exactly going on in the present. And this is what we believe is key. So before I get into more of this, as you see, there's an image here displayed of Sir John Dee and Elizabeth I. And what I wanted to do, everything that we're going to talk about, of course, is not listed on this page. And again, for those that are just logging in, we're on www.matrixunderground.com. What we have here is we have a dynasty that has been set up across the world where the ruler is just a couple of things here. Hold on real quick, Chloe. Okay, the first thing that we're going to get into is the title of the show, because it's most necessary that what we begin to do is that we begin to show beyond the shadow of a doubt that there is something going on. But in order to do that, we have to introduce new terms or terms that may not be used that often. One of those terms is hyperterrestrial. Hyperterrestrial is basically when an individual, which we all are terrestrials, begin to move so fast, their vibration begins to speed up, and that they begin to make decisions and assimilate information so fast that they are not focused. And so a hyperterrestrial, as we've now found out that we exist on a hyperdimensional level, we exist in multiple worlds, many of us are figuring that out now, that it is necessary now that we avoid being assimilated by many of the factions that have waited until this very point in mankind's history to begin to unveil what they have called just the great deception. And so what our responsibility is, and the reason why we chose to manifest here into this reality at this point, is to allow there at least to be a choice, that individuals would not be fooled and conned by the higher levels and lower levels of thought into a point where they can no longer make a single thought for themselves, but are making decisions based on what other people tell them. We encourage everyone, as we bring to you this interactive show and the information presented here, we ask you to do your own investigation with the things that are being presented so that you too may enjoy in the same feeling that we have when we uncover things that are of the highest level of intellect. So what we were talking about first is getting a nice chronological timeline of things that have taken place in our history. And it's important to do that because sometimes we do forget what exactly has taken place. And when we're looking into the moment or into maybe even what we're watching on TV, we may confuse what's being presented to us as just as it's being presented at that moment, not what it's always been presented as in history. So the beginning of this starts with me basically reading what was put together for the show. There was definitely a text attached to the show. Those that have logged in, it is www.matrixunderground.com. Basically, what is being said here is that in a lifetime, there is a certain amount of information that one tends to gather. When John Dee put himself in touch with these pan-dimensional beings, they began to flood his mind and then his aura with hyperdimensional information from what appears to be a lower density. And taking that information, which was about how to traverse the void, how to split the atom and different things like that, they developed one of the most brutal systems yet known to mankind's history. But again, history seems to be repeating itself as mankind continues to build more weapons. What's being shown here on the video that's below is some clips that were taken from the Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones' The Crystal Skull, where it clearly shows one of Nazi persuasion attempting to interface with a hyperdimensional being. And when this is actually taking place, this individual is overloaded with data to the point where they're consumed. So what we'll do is we'll take one moment, which is I think about 2 minutes, and we'll allow everyone that is listening in to go ahead and view that video, and then we'll take a quick moment and then get right back with you.
We're all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically.
I think nature's imagination is so much greater than man. He's never gonna let us
We live in an in-between universe where things change alright, but according to patterns, rules, or as we call them, laws of nature.
I'm this guy standing on a planet. Really, I'm just a speck. I'm just a speck compared with a star. The planet is just another speck. To think about all of this, to think about the vast emptiness of space. There's billions and billions of stars, billions and billions.